Hello everyone, I'm back with another part and we are continuing from conditional branching. The date right now is the same 10 June and let's move on. I know what the if statement does, so um, if the result is true, executes a block of code. For example, which year was ECMAScript 2015 specification published? And then you just leave a default value right there. And then if the year mentioned is 2025, I mean 2015, it should alert I'm right. But if I say something else like 6, it doesn't really say anything for now because there is no else condition, right? But if I do say 2015, you're right. Now, I know this. Uh, hmm, so if this condition is true, these two statements would be executed. That is great. Boolean conversion, the if statement and evaluates the expression in parentheses and converts the result to a Boolean. Okay, so the code under this condition would never execute. Truthy and falsy, that's nice. A number 0, an empty string, null, undefined, and nan all become false. Because of that, they are called falsy values. Other values become true, so they are called truthy. So if 0, then 0 is falsy. If 1, then 1 is truthy. We can also pass a pre-evaluated Boolean value to if like this. So we have like this CUND. So let's CUND is equal to year equals 2015 if condition. Okay, I have a condition. If CUND. So this is probably just saying that if the condition is true, you execute it. The if clause. This is interesting, you know. I'm sure it's not used at all. The else clause. I know what else does. I'm just gonna skip it. Several conditions, else if. I know what this says. Skip. Conditional operator question mark. Look at this. तो मुझे आता ही है. So if condition is true, we get value 1. If false, we get value 2. Truly, then value 1, otherwise value 2. For example, if age is above 18, you get true. If age is below 18, you get false. Or if age is equal to 18, you get false. Now, okay. Please note in the example above, you can avoid using the question mark operator because the comparison itself returns true or false. If age is less than 3, you get hi baby. If age is less than 18, you get hello. What? Greetings. What an unusual age. Okay, if I do 101. It may be difficult at first to grasp what's going on. No, I do understand. The exact last condition is what gets executed because that's the latest one. The first question mark checks whether age is less than 3. If it's true, it returns hi baby. Otherwise, it continues to the expression after the colon. Even if I enter, let's say 2. Oh, but 2 is less than 100 as well. That's weird. Okay, I don't know what's going on. If true, it returns hi baby, otherwise it continues the expression after the colon, checking age is less than 18. If that is true, it returns hello, otherwise it continues the expression after the colon, checking age is less than 100. If I say 17, hello, this works. So they all work. They all do their work. If age is not less than 3, let's say if age is 4, then not this, but this is executed. And I mean this entire block, by the way. So if age is below 18, we do a hello, right? And once again, if age is above 18, like 19, then we check from here. So age is, let's say, 20. Greetings. And if this is false, we get what an unusual age. So if I am 101 years old, it returns what an unusual age. Oh, I'm tired. Alert message. Of course, this is to print whatever is printed is executed. I mean, okay, fine. Which company made JavaScript? Company is Netscape. It's a prompt. So if you do say Netscape, you get it true. That makes it right. You get it right. If you say wrong, I mean, if you say something else, you get wrong because it becomes false. Next, logical operators. I know what OR does. I know. Uh, Next up is the and operator. A and B, I know this, I know this, I know. Um, so and returns the first falsy value, while OR returns the first truthy value. So here 1 and 0, 0 is returned. And here 1 and 5, well, they're both true. So the first one is returned, null and 5, null is returned, 0 and no matter what, 0 is returned. You can just clearly see that here. We can also pass several values in a row, see how the first falsy one is returned. So we have an alert, we have 1 and 2, and null, and 3, we get a null, because it's the first falsy value. Makes sense. But these things are a little bit confusing. It's like a lot to grasp in one single day, in one single setting, I should add. Oh yeah, 1 second. X is 1. The action in the right part, wait, of and would execute only if the evaluation reaches it. That is, only if x is more than 0 is true. So we basically have an analog for let x is more than 1. Sorry, let x is equal to 1. So if x is more than 0, we have to alert more than 0. Although the variant with and appears shorter, if is more obvious and tends to be a little bit more readable. Is not. The Boolean not operator is represented with an exclamation sign. So result is not value. I know what this is. I know what this is. Double not is sometimes used for converting a value to Boolean type. So we used a plus before for converting a string to an int. Now we're using a double not if something is to be converted to a Boolean type. That's great. Nullish coalescing operator. We have two question marks as it treats null and undefined. Similarly, we'll use a special term here in this article. For brevity, we'll say that a value is defined. Okay. If A is defined, then A. If A is not defined, then B. I see. In other words, nullish returns the first argument if it's not null or undefined. Otherwise, the second one. The nullish coalescing operator isn't anything completely new. It's just a nice syntax to get the first defined value of the two. We can rewrite result equals a nullish b using the operators that we already know like this. Result is, so if A is not null and A is not undefined, then return A. If any one of them is false, return B. Now it should be clear what this does. Let's see where it helps. The common use case for nullish is to provide a default value. For example, here we show user if its value isn't null or undefined, otherwise anonymous. Wait, this can be useful. Let user alert We're checking if the user is anonymous. So if A is defined, if user is defined, then A. Then user. If A is not defined, then B. So we return anonymous. Let's say we have John. Now because John is defined, return John. Okay, I get it. We can also use a sequence of nullish to select the first value from a list that isn't null or undefined. Let's say we have a user's data in variables. We have first name, last name, or nickname. All of them may be not defined if the user decides not to fill in the corresponding values. We'd like to display the username using one of these variables to show anonymous in all of them, if all of them are null or undefined. So first name is null, last name is null, nickname is supercoder, alert is the first name defined, is the last name defined, is the nickname defined. Whichever one is defined will get printed. If none of them are defined, you get anonymous. So what if we had none of them defined? It would just be anonymous, right? Comparison with this, so the OR operator can be used in the same way as question mark as it was described in a previous chapter. For example, in the code above, we could replace nullish with OR and still get the same result. We have to alert, this is basically returning the first true value. That's cool. Historically, the OR operator was there first. It's been there since the beginning of JavaScript, so developers were using it for such purposes for a long time. On the other hand, the nullish cancellation operator was added to JavaScript only recently, and the reason for that was that people weren't quite happy with OR. The important difference between them is that OR returns the first true value, then this returns the first defined value. Um, I have a. Aren't those the same thing? Let height is 0, so we have to alert height or 100, whichever is true. I think I get it now. Because height was defined, it gives a 0. But here it takes height as 0, which means false. So it returns the first true value, which is 100. And so we get 100. Precedence. The precedence of this operator is the same as OR. They both equal 3 in the MDN table. That means that just like OR, the nullish operator is evaluated before equal and question mark, but after most other operations such as plus and multiplication. So we may need to add parentheses. Now again, we have height as null, we have width as null, we have an area which is like, is height defined? Height is not defined, good, put 100. Then is width defined? Width is not defined, good, put 50. So 100 into 50 should be 5000. Otherwise, if we on parenthesis, then as multiplication has the higher precedence, then question mark it will execute first, leading to incorrect result. So I'm assuming it's going to be 100 to width, which I'm right about. For safety reasons, JavaScript forbids using this together with and or unless the precedence is explicitly specified with parentheses. The code below triggers a syntax error. So let x is 1 and 2 is this makes no sense. Oh, my back. Okay. Loops, while and for. We have while and for loops once again. I know what a while loop is. I know what it does. I know about the precedence of the minus minus. I know what a do while is. I've done C, I've done C++. I know what a for loop is. I do DSA, come on. Any part of for can be skipped. Oh, I know. At some point, it just becomes a while loop. Yeah, see, this part. Use break or something. Just use break. Break, yes. Use continue. I know. Yeah, labels. Let's say you want to break out of the outermost loop. Then you give this a label name. You give it the name outer. And then like we do use label when we want to break out of the complete loop, not just the inner loop. We want to break out of the complete full loop. So in order for us to do that, we use label name. And if I use the label name, I can just do if not input, if any condition, break outer. When you break outer, you break out of the entire thing. That's great. The switch statement. What did I search, man? Oh shit. Okay, I know what the switch does. Switch X. I know what switch does. Basically takes A in here, and if the value of A is 3, we print this, and then we break out. If the value is 4, which is 4 over here, prints exactly, then breaks. So the reason it's breaking is because none of these have to be executed after at least one of them have been executed. We use default if none of these cases match. Okay, so that's your switch statement. We can also group. So if A is 3, then first you will get wrong because wrong comes under 5 and 5 comes under 3. So see, wrong, and then you get why don't you take a math class? And then you break. This was a bad example though. It should have been something like you know, like, yeah, you're right. It's either 3 or 5, something of that sort. Yeah, look, you have an you have a user prompt for the user to enter a value. The value is stored in arg. You use a switch. If arg is 0 or 1, you print 0 or 1. I mean 1 or 0, then you break. That's it. That's your loop. How much more? Where am I? I am in functions. So I'm here. I'm right here. Can I finish the fundamental parts today? I hope I can. I know what a function is. Shouldn't be difficult. I know what a parameterized function is. I know the callback feature. I know local variables, if declared inside the function, they cannot access outside the function. I know outer variables. My mouse is dead. Oh no. Username is John. The footprint, where the function can access an outer variable as well. Um, so I know all these things. Those are global variables. Now we can pass arbitrary data to functions using parameters. In C or C++, you had to define what kind of data you were passing. But here, wait, yeah, here you don't really define anything. You just, I mean, it's auto-defined for all of you. I have a question though. So we do have a return keyword in JavaScript. Example is as follows. Here function add a comma b defines the function, return a plus b sends a value back to the caller. You can even return different types. If x is more than 0, I can do return 42, else I can return negative. That's weird, but okay. And if you don't write return, the function automatically returns undefined. You can also use return by itself. It does nothing, I believe, because this will never run as it says. Because once you have executed this, the next command is return. So you just exit the function. Okay, got it. We use a from and a text, and that's it. Default values. If a function is called but an argument is not provided, the corresponding value becomes undefined. For instance, the aforementioned function show message from text can be called with a single argument. Show message and that's not an error. Such a call would output an undefined as the value for text is passed. I want to test it. I want to test it. Yes, and undefined. Okay, default values, I know what that is. Undefined is your default value. Alternate default parameters. If text, oh, that's a good thing. If text is undefined, then text should just be empty message. This is a good one. Or no, 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 no. I hate this. Um, we do have to set a text for it. So I can just do like text is equal to empty message. Then I can do text equals text or empty. So whichever is provided, right, that will be given to it. So let's say the user has not given us a text parameter. So text is undefined and or returns the first truth value. Because this is a string, a filled string, it is a truth value and so we get empty. Supports a nullish operator. It's better than most falsy values such as 0 should be considered normal. Okay. Count, if count is provided, you do count. If it's not provided, you do unknown. That's it. And this we just read unknowingly. We can return anything. That is great. Function show movie age if check age is false. Just break out the loop. Alright. Never add a new line between return and the values. Some long expression or whatever. The So don't do this. That's what they're saying because this is a reference to the first few lessons where we learned that you can sometimes just do a new line instead of adding a semicolon at the end of a command. But here we are clearly told, don't do that for return. And okay, I won't. If we want the returned expression to wrap across multiple lines, we should start it at the same line as return, or at least put the opening parenthesis there as follows. Okay. Naming a function, functions are active. I don't really get this one though. Can you give me an example? It was not that deep. This is bad. Firstly, return does not use curly braces. Oh, I see. Okay. Oh, return can use curly braces. Okay. Just use a semicolon after the end of the return function. Not the function, but the command. Alright. Naming a function, this should not be important at all. Functions is equal to comments. Functions should be short and do exactly one thing. If that one thing is big, maybe it's worth it to split the function into a few smaller functions. Sometimes following this rule may not be that easy, but it's definitely a good thing. A separate function is not only easier to test and debug, its very existence is a great comment. What? For instance, Compare the two functions show primes below. Each one outputs prime numbers up to n. The first variant uses a label. Where is the label? Here is the label. Function show prime, next prime is the label, which we can literally use to break or continue from it. So we have a for loop, we use int I, let I is 2, okay, for let j is 2, we have j is less than 1 and j plus plus. So let me try run this, 2 and 2, right? So 2 mod 2 is 0. Yeah. Just continue the entire loop. Don't do nothing with it, just continue. Forget about it. So I plus plus, you get I is 3, j is uh, j is still 2, right? And 3 into is not 0. 3 more 2 is not 0. So 3 would be a prime. Am I doing this right? I think I am. Second variant uses an additional function as prime to test for primality. Function show primes in for let I is 2, I is less than n, I plus plus if is prime. Now again I have to find its prime, right? So this works. We have defined the exact same thing as before, but in this prime function. Check if its prime is false or true. If false, let's continue. If true, we put that into alert. That is done. Oh man. The remaining 3 will be done later. I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.